the insulin protocol. And don't go into too much depth. Just give them the basics, because I want the kids to understand that from the master. You're the
Okay.
mind, you're the Milos. Just
Yeah.
explain that real quick.
Yes. So insulin is anabolic hormone that it's a storage hormone, stores everything everywhere. Okay, which is danger. Everything, there are things that you don't want. Triglycerides you don't want to store everywhere, the body fat, you don't want it. But it stores everything, amino acids, glucose, what you want, where if you can direct them into the muscle tissue, then it becomes your best friend. Otherwise, is your worst enemy, right? So if you use for anabolic purposes to drive nutrients into the muscle, I found, that makes all the sense in the world, because it's different pathway of anabolism than steroids or anything else. So inserts amino acids and glucose into the muscle tissue, muscle cells. Is this good or bad? Oh, so well, let me say it like this. We have a 5-6 liters of blood. Okay, right now maybe 10%. We all have about 10% in the muscles. When you're gonna go train, 60-70% is gonna go in exact muscle that you're training. Okay, 60-70% goes exactly in the chest. Right now we're gonna train chest. So I saturate the blood with all the amino acids and all the nutrients that make a difference. So all the supplements that make a difference: creatine, glutamine, beta-alanine, citrulline, blah 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 blah. Everything in elemental state ready for uptake. Okay, and then I put the agent that enhances the transport and pushes all exactly where into the muscle. So my protocols were only fast-acting insulin, only right before the workout, so it's going to peak during the training, and after the workout to keep replenishing glycogen. Like about 6 hours after the training, it's still physiological preference of your body to take care of what just happened. You shock the muscle, you work the muscle, you lose all this stuff to put it back. So for me, in theory, this was perfect. Humalog onset is in 15 minutes, peak is in 45 minutes, strong is a couple of hours, it's out in 3-4 hours. So when it's here, strongest action of insulin, which means taking everything out of the blood in first available tissues and cells. The only available tissues and cells are the muscle cells, muscle tissue that you're training. So it's like shoving it right there, like nailing it. It's like, how can I lose that opportunity, right? And then I started with a little bit. If you do physiological level of supraphysiological, you're using more than your body would ever do. Okay. So does it make sense? In this instance, for me, it made perfect sense. So I would do this. I would drink my drink in between the workouts. I would maintain my glycemia, so I never go in low blood sugar or hypoglycemic shock, right? So I maintain and I keep shoving it in. I know that a lot of people don't agree with this. And, yeah, you don't need it. It's a difference night and day. The pumps that you're going to get on it or without it, it's not even funny. I do remember Dennis James, the first month when we used it, he gained 44 pounds. But he says he would be full all day. He would be, bursting full and all that stuff, right? Of course. Post-workout, I would do another shot, right? Because to cover my replenishment, right? So this is what I did. A lot of people judge it. A lot of people are against it. But you tell me, which logic works against what I just told you? I'm going to send the blood and I'm going to send the nutrients and I'm going to send the guy that's going to, like police officers put everybody in jail. Okay. The cop is going to get you there. Maybe you wouldn't choose to go there. My guy is going to force everything to go where exactly where I want to send it.
So this person asks, so you're this guy, Lantus became very popular in the last several years or whatever. So this guy asked, are you still, is your view on Lantus still the same? You do not like the long acting?
I don't like long whatsoever. And here is why, that everybody can, and I know that many people use it and they're going to argue with me. I know that Dave Palumbo like to use it, and he's counteracting hyperglycemia from GH, that maybe you're going to be reducing insulin sensitivity. Insulin is not selective, as I said. It takes everything everywhere. If I take it at the wrong time, it can go to the wrong place. I'm not directing the blood into the muscle. It's just like, okay, I have everything, especially then if you have a higher fat diet and you have triglycerides lingering around. If triglyceride is there and insulin is there, it's going to grab it and store it 1,000,000%. So why would I choose to do that when I don't need it? So for me, I'm strictly against it. I just use when it makes sense. Okay. So you can be on a low carb diet elsewhere, blah, 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 whatever, how you structure your diet. And when you train, that's anabolic phase of the day. I normally have a maintenance phase of the day, just maintain. You can maintain with protein and carbs, or protein and fat, or all three, how lucky you are. But when you're going to train, meal before, 2 meals after and during, I take care of it. Glucose and carbs are my friend at that time. Insulin is my friend at this time. Now you're welcome. Come in. Later, go away. You don't need to.
So with this philosophy, do you agree? Do you have to train early in the day?
No.
No.
Listen. Okay. So, King, if you use a long-acting one, then you should probably train right away. Yeah, you should train, soon. But you can wake up, do your cardio. That's fat burning phase of the day. Okay. You can have a keto diet, in sense, protein and fats, no problem. Okay. First part of the day, you're not active. Okay. Glucose becomes the fuel substrate of utilization only for muscle work. So when I'm going to expose my muscles to work, I need the glucose. Okay. If I'm going to have a glucose already, glucose is going to trigger insulin release anyway. Well, how about if before it's even released, I put it in, and it's going to keep shoving it in stronger than it would normally do.
Right.
But so long acting, 24 hours in a day is there. So, okay, King, you tell me, if you know that something is potentially shoving fat in you, okay, and then you have some fats in your meals, first, second, third meal, whatever else. If you have some fats, an agent then is not selectively choosing just what you want, but also what you don't want, how can you let it happen? Why do you think you are just hoping it's not going to trap the triglyceride? I mean, how can you convince yourself, it's not going to happen? That's the job of insulin, to transport the nutrients, everything, everywhere. And
yeah, I mean, we see people all the time using insulin the wrong way and putting on so much fat, right? Like,
yes.
So,
Nasser has somebody, Armand, you know that story. King knows. Nasser was in my house, 94, and he saw one of these journals. King, you saw it in my house, right?
I've seen your journals, yes.
All this shit. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So Nasser looked at I said, insulin. Shit, bullshit. It just
bullshit. That was his favorite word. Bullshit.
Yeah, bullshit. Yeah, bullshit. And he was actually mad. Actually mad. You heard the story? I don't want to repeat it if you heard it.
I've heard it, but a lot of people have heard it.
So anyway, he did not believe it. Yes. And then the whole thing was like, you made this and you put it on this table because you knew I'm coming. I said,
that sounds like him, man.
Yeah.
Like him.
So for people to realize, right? It's like 10 meals a day, everything, protein, carbs, like every single day. Okay, I would put some pictures also occasionally, right? But it's like every meal, everything I take. So I said 365 days a year. I did the 10 meals a day because I knew that in January of 1994, you're going to come to my house so I can trick you. Are you fucking out of your mind? So then he asked me to take like my last 3 years of these journals he took at home. And then he came back and said, okay, I'm doing it. So and that's the time that I trained with him in '95 at San Diego, and let me tell you, he was hyper responder.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're talking about Ronnie Coleman being that big, 2003. 94 to 95 Nasser transformation was equivalent maybe to Ronnie Coleman 2002 to 2003. I'm dead serious. But I've seen him in a Gold Gym, 294 pounds before a Houston. He could have stepped on the stage and still be most conditioned guy with 294. But you know how you want to make sure that you dry out. And he went down to like, I don't know, 278 or something. But Nasser was that big.
Which
Now,
leads me.
are you fan of the insulin? Sorry, King. Off season, pre contest, or both?
Okay, so of course, every time, look, Arman, I want to maximize everything. If every day is off season and pre contest, do I want to maximize it or not? If I train, is this better with insulin or without it? The whole thing that I told you, if I'm going to transport it to the muscle, insulin is my best friend. I would use it pre-contest as well. You know, of course, pre-contest, if you're a fat ass and you need to lose body fat, okay, you have to drop the carbs. If you drop the carbs for a whole day, you probably don't have a commodity to use insulin because you're on such a low carbs. Even if I would do the guys on a low carbs for a training, that's an anabolic phase of the day, I would give them a little bit to make sure it pushes into the muscle they're training.
Right now, there's about 1 million people asking, what does a little bit mean?
Okay. 5, 8, 10 units. Okay. Normally, I would do 20-20. Everybody knows my protocols would be 20-20.
Yeah.
That's super physiological amount. Yeah. Now that you ask me, okay, would I insist? No. If you don't feel comfortable and you're in local, you don't need to do it. A lot of guys don't want to do it. Would I do on body parts? Okay, around body parts that can make a difference, like chest, shoulders, right? Oh, hell yeah. I would not do the chest day without it. Holy hell. I mean, when you have that insulin chest pump or the shoulders, the Kevin Lebroni got them, cannonballs. But I understand that it's not prevalent like it was back in the day. In the 90s, I mean, the Chad's guys were using it, right? You were one of the Chad guys.
Yeah, but I didn't use it in the off season because I was fat. When I met Chad, I was the young guy and with all these legends and stuff like that. So it didn't in the off season. Then now when it came to leg days and back days, that was a different situation. I kind of put 2 and 2 together and asked a lot of other guys what's going on, blah 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 blah. But mostly was just right before the show. 3 or 4 days before the show, then we start loading up and all that stuff. Okay. But never ever. Which leads me to what I was going to say a few seconds ago. I've seen Iranian protocols of taking 20 units with every single meal. Every single meal. And I don't even know what to say about that. What would you say to someone if you saw protocols like that?
I don't know.
Teach these guys, because they're going to listen to you. They're not going to listen to me. They're going to be like, he doesn't want to give the secrets away.
I have no secrets. I always say everything. Now that you're questioning, this is ridiculous. If you ask me, that's not borderline dangerous. That's super dangerous. And they would have to have 0 fat in their diet to get away with it. Okay, and they're gonna fuck up the sugars probably. They're gonna, because every meal, if you have 6 meals a day, that's 120 units, right? Yeah. And it's constantly this, it's whoa. Now, if you use insulin but not much carbs, you're gonna probably be running on hypoglycemic, levels, which is, how can that be good?
It's incredibly dangerous.
Yeah, some idiot trainers were using insulin with no carbs, supposedly to deplete your glycogen. No, seriously, that was like what? How do you deplete your glycogen?
I've had
Yeah.
people on keto diets. The coach had them doing keto diets and insulin. I'm like, do you feel terrible every day? Like, what's going on? It's
No.
crazy what's going on with the insulin. And Milos, like when people talk about growth hormone these days, what's a typical dose to you, and what's an insane dose? Because you got a lot of these influencers, they start out with like pro level cycles. So what is a typical dose you would say a top pro uses or
Yeah.
amateur should use, and a dose that's just 20, 30 IUs that we hear of that someone should not use ever, in
Yeah,
your
we hear
opinion?
this. Look, 30 years ago, I talked about it. I don't know if you heard me say it, King. 0.7 units per kilo per week was therapeutic dosage with the most benefits, least amount of side effects. 0.7. Take a 100-kilo guy. That's a 100 kilo, 220-pound guy. It's 70 units a week, which is 10 units a day. Okay. So that would be like, okay, if you're 250, it would be up to 11, 12 units a day would be justified for pharmacological effect of growth hormone beneficial. Okay. Would that cause hyperglycemia, and then insulin resistance? Probably for a prolonged time. But that's why you bring insulin into equation. Fire and water, counter-regulatory hormones, and you constantly balance everything. So if you are using a GH and then you use insulin for your workouts, like my protocol, you can never run insulin resistance. Training itself is the first fight against insulin resistance, right? So it's now what nutrients you're bringing in. But to just answer about GH, we were lucky back in the 90s if you could get 4 units a day. I mean, it was goddamn expensive. We didn't have money. And 4 units is something that, I would say. Then it came to 10 and then 16. And I know people that go crazy amounts, 30. Yeah.
Which is stupid.
It's stupid. Absolutely. Absolutely unnecessary. And, there is use, misuse, and abuse of everything. So I'm not against, see, I'm a bad guy, insulin guy. If you know how to control it, it can bring you many benefits. Steroids, oh my God, that's bad. If you use correctly, it's an anabolic hormone. It's not catabolic. It's not breaking you down. It's building you up. Control it. You can maintain this. Testosterone is what makes us who we are, right?
Look at Jeff Bezos.
Yeah. But, bad thing in bodybuilding is if 1 is good, 2 is twice as good.
Yeah.
10 is 10 times as good. So many people will really do 10 times the amounts.
Yeah.
What's your opinion on this guy asks, what's your opinion on donating blood before a cycle, since blood count will go up?
Yeah, listen, I never donated blood in my life. My hematocrit was always there. Hemoglobin was there. If it's elevated, yeah, you should. Yeah. And you should be hydrated like MF. I know that, King, you were drinking like 2 gallons of water a day, right?
Minimum,
yeah. Yeah, and people nowadays, they don't do that. Among the other things, train like a maniacs, diet like you are in a fucking island with no food, right? And then hydrate yourself. They don't do this.
Yeah,
So,
I say this to women all the time. I'm like, you guys spend a quintillion billion dollars a year on skincare products. Drink water.
Yeah.
Hydrate your body, your skin. I still won't have a wrinkle on my face. I don't.
doesn't the sugar make your pancreas secrete insulin on top of the insulin?
You're supposed to be an expert in that anyway, right? Okay, and you had a sugar. Of course, that any kind of carbohydrates turn into the glucose, and the elevated glucose is going to trigger beta cells of pancreas to release insulin. Of course. But when you inject insulin in advance, insulin is already there. Okay. And that sugar is transported with exogenous insulin. Endogenous doesn't need to be made because it's already transported. Okay. If it doubles up, okay, if you still, you see, if you eat sugar, okay, it's going to elevate. It's going to trigger blood sugar level up. And then if it goes up, beta cells release it. Okay. If you do that first. But if you inject insulin, okay, and insulin is already in, and then you eat, and insulin is already there, it's going to transport. Your pancreas doesn't need to, it's a negative feedback. Just like you have too much testosterone, your body is not going to release your testosterone, right? Because it's already there.
And he follows up with a Tony Huge coach Trevor used to use insulin while doing fasted cardio, claiming it increases fat loss.
Okay, so how does it increases fat loss? What part of insulin burns fat?
That's crazy.
How do they explain it?
Yeah, that's nuts. Is it a waste of time to use insulin without GH? I'm married with teenagers, so my wife isn't having me wasting money on GH. She is cool with my cycles and health supplements. Insulin at Walmart is cheap. Is it a waste? Milos?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I should agree that the GH is worth it. I mean, it's more anti-catabolic. It's fat burning. It's not really anabolic. Okay. It's cost effective. Would I use it? Of course. If anybody would give me, I would use it. I would use it up to 10 units a day myself. Yeah, for sure. I'm not against it. But would I buy it? I'm cheap ass. I wouldn't buy it. So, but Joshua, if your wife is saying insulin works without the GH, yeah, it's independent. Yeah, it is. Would it be better with both? Yes.
Dorian used to say that all the time. He used to say that the greatest stack ever is insulin and growth.
No, but Dorian didn't like insulin. You know, he talked about it.
Yeah.
I gave him the protocol. I mean, I gave him just like everybody else. Listen, I never had a single secret in my life, and this is why when these haters jump at me, this and that, I'm open book. Ask me anything you want to know. I'll tell you.
You hear a lot of people saying, I don't like insulin because it makes me feel bad. Are they using insulin wrong? Or, because a lot of people, you say you like the fast acting insulin. I know most people are using longer acting insulin. Like I get consultations and they, the one, you can't get, a Humalog from Walmart without a prescription, obviously. So they're using the
R.
The R, the N you can get from Walmart. Do you say, go ahead and use that if you can't get Humalog, or it's a waste?
But we used to at King's time and Chad, we use R and N.
Correct.
Because that was and R is a different onset, peak, duration. I think onset was 45 minutes, peak was in 2 hours, strong 2-3 hours, and then out in 8. And N would peak a couple of times. These journals, I can pull it out and show you 97. I use N and R, especially when I was carb loading. When I was carb loading, I wanted to have a all day transport, make glycogen. So at that time, of course, and I don't have any fats, so I'm safe. But your question was, sorry, I forgot. What was your question?
Oh, I mean, if you're like, if it's not a waste if someone only can get that type of insulin, they can't get a fast acting Humalog.
Yeah, but you have to time it a little bit differently. Yes,
Right.
You have to time it earlier so it peaks when you're training. Yes.
Okay.
Armand, any more insulin questions? Do we want to keep going with this?
I think that sums it up. I mean, yeah.
I mean, he explained it perfectly. You can't explain it any better than that.
Yeah. And, one last thing, like Phil Heath claims he never used insulin. Hani claims he never uses insulin with a lot of these top guys. Do you believe this?
I have no reason not to believe. I mean, Lee Priest didn't use it, right?
Right,
You
right.
know, okay. And it's part why you don't use something because you're afraid of and you don't know much about it. And if you don't know much about insulin, you're probably better off not using, right? You know, they point finger at me like, okay, you're killing people. Listen, if I give you the gun and you know how to use the gun, it can save your life. If you turn around, well, too bad, so sad. You're an idiot, right?
Good analogy.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of people don't listen. They take, you know, you tell them to take 5, they take 10. I remember I've told guys to take 5 before. They were taking 50 on accident, and they already knew they were already at a top level, and they had literally pro bodybuilders as coaches before. I'm like, you know how to measure it, right? They're like, yeah. And then I'm like, why are you? What do you mean you're passing out all the time? What do you mean you're passing out from using 10 IUs? Oh, and then I made a video one day like how to measure it. I showed with a syringe, and one of my clients calls, like, oh my God, dude, I've been taking 80 IUs a day. And I'm like, dude, like, what? You've been bodybuilding for all these years and you don't know 8 IUs from 80 IUs because people don't understand you measure it differently than GH.
That happened to many of people that I work with that because like 4 IUs of a GH would be like the whole fucking insulin needle, right? So they think that 4 IUs there is 4 IUs here, right? And then they would inject like 10 times more. Yeah.
I got a crazy insulin story. So one of my friends, he was I wasn't even using insulin at the time. He was at the gym and he left a syringe in my car with a 4 ml of, I believe it was Humalog, right? So I had a dentist appointment like 3 days later, and I had a prescription to Nubane at the time. My doctor used to prescribe me like 12 bottles a month. So I had to get a procedure done. I thought this was Nubane in my